Hi, I'm Kat and I guess let's just start. So the word in Romanian for today is elefant. Elefant. Elephant. Well done guys, you just said elephant. And honestly guys, I have to warn you from the beginning, I was heartbroken when I read about this. It involves horrific animal torture leading up to the unspeakable. So this is the trigger warning. Mary, born around 1894, worked for years for the Sparks world-famous show's traveling circus, where she entertained towns all over the place. Mary's story begins in the late 19th century with a man called Charlie Sparks. A performer since the age of 8, Charlie went on to own the Sparks world-famous shows, a traveling circus featuring clowns, acrobats, lions, and other exotic animals such as elephants, which included Mary. By the way, this story is happening in the US. Charlie's father purchased Mary when she was only 4 years old in 1898, and Charlie and his wife, Addie Mitchell, would raise her, treating her like the child they never had. Addie had been the circus's head cook and animal doctor. Their philosophy was to treat the animals with gentle care. Charlie firmly instructed his employees to be kind, gentle, and respectful to all of his animals, especially to his beloved Mary. Mary was nicknamed Big Mary, and she was known as the largest living land animal on Earth. Mary was a 5-ton Asian elephant, taller than the popular Jumbo, standing over him by around 3 inches. Mary was without a doubt the company's star attraction, bringing many spectators to the circus shows for years. Mary played musical instruments. She would pick out 25 tunes of musical horns, which she tooted with her trunk. She stood on her head, and she would even catch baseballs. She was the champion pitcher on the circus baseball team. In September 1916, the circus made its way to Virginia. On Charlie's arrival, a transient hotel clerk called Walter "Red" Eldridge was asking about a job, working with the show's elephants. Although he didn't have any experience, the circus employed Walter as an underkeeper, which meant that he was responsible for the elephants' basic maintenance, such as feeding and watering them. The circus employees trained Walter how to handle the elephants with the care that Charlie insisted of his handlers. But Walter lost sight of this at the first elephant mistake, which resulted in one of the most cruel and barbaric cases of animal torture ever recorded. Even though there are conflicting reports with how exactly everything happened, one thing is for sure: Mary lost her life just for being an elephant. Walter had a favorite elephant, and it wasn't Mary. It was a smaller elephant, and Mary really scared him only because of her size. He really felt intimidated by her and didn't really like working with her, but he did anyway. It was part of his job. Leading the elephants to a nearby watering hole while preparing for a show in Kingsport, Tennessee, Walter, the handler, sat on Mary, nudging her forward with his bullhook. Mary noticed a discarded watermelon rind on the side of the road and stopped suddenly. Irritated by this, Walter began smacking her with his makeshift whip, digging its hooks deep into her flesh, directly going against orders that he had received. Mary just snapped. Reaching behind with her trunk, some reports say that Mary grabbed Walter, lifted him up into the air, and slammed his body onto the ground before using her massive foot to crush his head, killing Walter instantly. Other reports claim that Mary impaled Walter with her tusks, while other reports state that she only whipped him in the head with her trunk, landing the fatal blow that killed him. One report, recounted by W.H. Coleman, who claimed to be a witness, says that he prodded her behind the ear with a hook after Mary reached down to nibble on a watermelon rind. She went into a rage, snatched Eldridge with her trunk, threw him against a drink stand, and stepped on his head, crushing it. A contemporary newspaper account from the Johnson City staff said that Mary collided its trunk vice-like about Eldridge's body, lifted him 10 feet 3 meters in the air, then dashed him with fury to the ground, and with the full force of her beastly fury is said to have sunk her giant tusks entirely through his body. The animal then trampled the dying form of Eldridge as if seeking a murderous triumph, then with a sudden swing of her massive foot hurled his body into the crowd. The details of the aftermath are blurry because of sensationalist newspaper stories and folklore. For example, the Johnson newspaper described Mary as impaling Walter with her tusks, but female Asian elephants don't have any tusks. In the Asian species, only some males have large prominent tusks. Most female and some male Asian elephants have small tusks called tashes, which very rarely protrude more than an inch or two from the lip line. Tashes have a slightly different composition than tusks. They are small and brittle, causing them to easily break. A significant number of adult male Asian elephants are tuskless. Regardless of the stories of how the attack happened, the town of Kingsport wanted justice for Walter's death. One witness recalled, quote, "Blood and brains and stuff just squirted all over the street," end of quote. As the terrified spectators screamed and ran away, within minutes, a local blacksmith called Hench Cox shot Mary with a pistol, unloading 5 rounds of ammunition into her thick hide. Mary stood still, suddenly calm again, and unaware to both the bullets and the commotion as people encircled her with chants of "Kill the elephant," before chaining her outside of the county jail, where more onlookers gathered to witness the great murderous Mary, as she was now known. News of the killing spread fast. The Sparks Circus had a show in nearby Irwin later that evening, but the town forbade the circus from entering as long as they had Mary with them. With a crowd headed to Kingsport to kill Mary, Charlie, her owner, had to make a hard decision. Even though they had a very close emotional bond for years, Charlie really tried to save his business. He staged a public execution of Mary the elephant. But Charlie had difficulties figuring out how to best execute a 10,000-pound animal. The bullets didn't kill Mary, and poison wasn't likely to work either, since elephants have 500,000 sense receptors in their trunks and can easily detect toxic substances. Some people suggested crushing Mary between 2 trains. Others even said to tie her front and back legs to 2 trains running in opposite directions, essentially dismembering Mary alive. Another option was electrocution. There was a horrific precedent for this because of Thomas Edison, the inventor of the first commercially viable electric light bulb. When America was choosing which of the 2 main forms of electricity to adopt, direct current or DC or alternating current AC, Thomas Edison, you know Thomas Edison, had patents for many devices using DC direct current, and he would profit hugely if this was chosen over its rival, the AC. Claiming that DC was the safer one, Edison spread fake stories about fatal accidents allegedly involving AC. He also staged various demonstrations in which animals were publicly electrocuted with AC, the most spectacular of which came in 1903 when a new amusement park opened on New York Coney Island. One of the attractions there was an elephant called Topsy, but it was claimed that Topsy became violent and disobedient, and the owners were looking for some publicity for their new ventures by executing Topsy with Thomas Edison's help. A huge crowd saw Topsy place her feet into specially designed wooden sandals which were lined with copper wiring and linked to an AC power supply. When the switch was on, smoke puffed up from her feet, and within a minute or two it was all over. And poor Topsy, she was just doing what she was trained to do as an elephant, just to follow orders, and she stepped right into her death. One newspaper reported the public's delight in watching Topsy die, even though it caused, quote, an unpleasant smell to mingle with the scent of roasted peanuts sold at 2 cents a bag, end of quote. Later it was said that Topsy's execution briefly caused bulbs to dull all over the region as if in commemoration of her, but her death actually proved in vain because Thomas Edison's plot failed and America eventually went with alternating current, AC, as the standard electricity current. Electricity had reached rural Tennessee by 1916, but not with sufficient power to kill an elephant. So Charlie Sparks came up with the equally sensational idea of hanging Mary the elephant. Irwin, this newly booming American railroad town, had grand ambitions, boasting its own post office, theater and courthouse. It also had a jail. Between 1882 and 1930, there were 214 victims of lynchings in Tennessee. Most were black men quickly found guilty of crimes such as fighting a white man and having bad character. Soon, their tragic numbers would be joined by Mary, the only elephant in history ever to have been hanged. This was in the same week that Prince Charles from the UK hosted an international conference to address the illegal trade in wildlife parts. Elephants were among the species highlighted as most at risk, but the enlightened Western world was not always so concerned about the welfare of these majestic creatures. Mary's fate was sealed the day before the hanging, when Charlie Sparks' circus train arrived in the small town of Kingsport, about 40 miles from Irwin. The circus announced its arrival with a parade along the main street, during which Mary was ridden by 38-year-old Walter, nicknamed Red because of his rusty-colored hair. Walter was with the circus only one day. He had no experience of handling elephants, but the only qualification required was the ability to use an elephant stick, a rod with a sharp spear at one end. The elephant stick was terrifying to the elephants, according to an account of how a baby elephant named Mademoiselle Jack was tamed for a short performance on the London stage in 1829. Charles Reade, a novelist of the time, described how her keeper first gained mastery over her by stabbing her in the trunk with a pitchfork, at which she wheeled round, ran her head into a corner, stuck out her great buttocks, and trembled all over like a leaf. He then poked her with all his force for half an hour until the blood poured out of every square foot of her huge body, and he had filled her as full of holes as a claved orange. Similar techniques would have been used to break Mary. The next day, Sparks' world-famous shows entered the town of Irwin, ready to hang Mary from a 100-ton crane located on the railroad tracks. This crane was used to lift railway carriages on and off the tracks. It was strong enough to support an elephant, and the circus goers, disappointed by not seeing Mary in the ring that afternoon, were so excited by the news that they could see her being hanged shortly afterwards at no additional charge. On September 13, 1916, between 4 and 5 p.m., as she was led to the Clinchfield Railroad Yard, Mary was followed by the circus's other 4 elephants, each entwining their trunk in the tail of the animal in front, just as they had done on countless parades. Charlie hoped that their presence would keep Mary compliant, but as a chain was placed around her neck at the gallows, they trumpeted mournfully to her, and Charlie feared that she might try to run away. To stop this from happening, one of her legs was tethered to a rail. When the crane went into action, as Mary was hoisted into the air, there was an awful cracking noise, the sound of her bones and ligaments snapping under the strain. No one thought to release her legs from the rail. Mary had been raised no more than 5 feet into the air when the chain around her neck broke dropping her to the ground and breaking her hip. There were around 3,000 people watching, including most of the town's children. One witness said, quote, "It made a right smart little racket," end of quote. When Mary fell, the onlookers panicked and they ran for cover, but Mary simply sat there, shaken and in horrible pain. One of the circus staff ran up her back as if climbing a small hill and attached a stronger chain to Mary's neck. The crane was powered up again, and this time Mary was raised high in the air, her legs pounding and her agonized shrieks and grunts heard even over the laughter and cheers of those watching below. Finally, Mary fell silent and hung there for half an hour before a local vet declared her dead. She was then lowered to the ground. Her gruesome end is recorded in a photo so horrifically unreal that some suggested it must be a fake, but sadly its authenticity was confirmed by other photos taken at the time. And I won't be showing you the photo because it's just cruel and I really want to spare you the visual. That night the circus just went ahead as usual, but the elephants were acting strange. They performed the same routine they had been performing with Mary for years. The performance went well, but as they were being led away, one of the elephants, Shadrach, broke away from the herd. Someone yelled, "The elephants are loose." People were panicking, trying to run away, stomping on each other, pushing each other, but nothing really serious apart from some bruises. Since wild elephants are thought to return to the bones of fallen family members in the wild annually, for many years, maybe Shadrach went in search for Mary. But he was quickly recaptured and returned to the life of captive misery from which he had just escaped. Today, Mary still lies buried in a huge grave which was dug for her using a steam shovel. Some said that the hole was as big as a barn, but no one knows exactly where it is and no one really seems interested to even find it. There is absolutely no monument or a reminder of Mary in Irwin, the town which hanged an elephant and apparently remains ashamed of having done so to this very day. With a high level of intelligence and good memories, elephants can be trained to do almost anything, but the real difficulty is in controlling the giant animals. While they are usually peaceful creatures, they can be incredibly violent if provoked, using their trunks to hurl people against the ground, as was the case with Mary the elephant. So the question is, how was Mary provoked? A vet actually examined Mary after the hanging and determined that Mary had a severely infected tooth in the precise spot where Walter prodded her. She was in pain from the tooth infection, and of course Walter hurting her there in that spot, she felt threatened and reacted. In the end, Mary the elephant died just for being an animal and having animal instincts. Rogue elephants of the time were often sold to other circuses under other names, and according to some sources, it appears that Mary might have been sold twice previously. It suggested that Mary was originally called Queen, and after killing her keeper, she was sold under the name Empress. Then her name was changed to Mary, and she killed a child before coming to the Sparks Circus. But this doesn't really align with the fact that Mary was purchased by Charlie's father when she was 4 years old, and she was raised by Charlie and his wife. When Mary was killed, she was around 21 or 22 years old. Her weight was 5 tons or 4,500 kilograms, and she was 11 feet 3.5 meters tall. Asian elephants reach adulthood at 17 years of age in both sexes. The average elephant life expectancy is 60 years, 60, in the wild, and 80 years in captivity, 70 years for females. As for Walter Red Eldridge, nobody really knows anything about him. It's not known if he drifted in or if he had any family or if anyone missed him after he died. It's believed that he was from St. Paul, Virginia, where he worked at the Riverside Hotel cleaning and doing odd jobs 1 week before he signed up with the circus. He was sent to St. Paul for burial. Everything else regarding him is unknown. The truth is that the sad story of murderous Mary is not an isolated one. Years earlier, in 1903, the elephant named Topsy was famously electrocuted in Coney Island, New York, after trampling 3 handlers in as many years. Most recently, in 1994, an elephant named Tyke was shot 87 times by Honolulu police after escaping the circus ring mid-show, crushing her trainer while running for freedom. Elephant abuse was rampant, and the misconceptions and misunderstandings about these great animals were numerous. Topsy, who was electrocuted on January the 4th, 1903 by Thomas Edison at Coney Island's Luna Park, was very abused. She was executed by electrocution because she killed 3 people, including a trainer who fed her a lit cigarette. Hanging was considered as an execution method for Topsy, but after the intervention of the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, founded in 1866, hanging was deemed inhumane. Researchers such as Ian Douglas Hamilton, Anthony Martin Hall, and others say that elephants may indeed have awareness of death. Gay Bradshaw and others have recently argued that elephants' famous and long memories and complex psyches may play a role in their developing post-traumatic stress disorder. Many behaviors associated with grief, non-maternal mothering, mimicry, art, a sense of humor, altruism, self-awareness, vast memory, and possibly even language point to the fact that elephants are far more aware than possibly known in 1916. Asian elephants have a very large and highly developed neocortex, a trait also shared by humans, apes, and certain dolphin species. They have a greater volume of cerebral cortex available for cognitive processing than all other existing land animals. Results of studies indicate that Asian elephants have cognitive abilities for tool use and tool making similar to great apes. They exhibit a wide variety of behaviors, including those associated with grief, learning, non-maternal care, mimicry, play, altruism, use of tools, compassion, cooperation, self-awareness, memory, and language. Several students of elephant cognition and the neuroanatomy are convinced that Asian elephants are highly intelligent and self-aware. These examples of elephant abuse that I mentioned above, along with the torture that trained animals undergo to perform for the sake of others' entertainment, have led countless animal welfare groups to advocate for change in the handling of performance animals. In May 2016, the Ringling Brothers Circus announced that it would retire several circus elephants and had plans to eliminate their use in shows entirely by 2018. A century after her death, Mary didn't suffer in vain either. Ed Stewart, the president of the Performing Animals Welfare Society, told the New York Daily News, quote, "She's an example of why we should never have put these animals in such unnatural situations in the first place. This elephant was simply acting like an elephant. They are inherently dangerous, and I don't blame her for what happened. I blame those who put her in the circus. It's their fault." End of quote. And although this was a short video, this, guys, is the horrific story of Mary the elephant. I am just disgusted by what humans can do, and I am even more disgusted by what humans can find entertaining. It's always, about humans being superior to everything else and having control of everything and feeling entitled to just everything. It's infuriating. It's common knowledge that animals will behave like animals with their animal instincts. It's how they are wired. No matter how much you train them, you keep them captive, you try to make them your pets, deep down they are still animals and they should be left in their environment. How would you feel as a human to be taken away from your home and family and be kept in a cage or on a leash? Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Please do let me know what do you think in the comment section down below. For now, take care, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!